it begs the question. What Anna Rose was just mentioning begs the question. And Jeff, when you were sort of giving us the big picture earlier in the conversation around what the center intends to do, you hinted at the center being a support mechanism beyond just creating a sandbox for scientific experiments. You hinted at
Hmm.
the translational
Hmm.
capabilities, the relationship with TriLink being sort of foundational to your point, being able to take some of these ideas eventually into the clinic. What does that infrastructure look like at the center right now, and what do you aspire for that? I guess, yeah, infrastructure or functionality to look like in terms of a business support mechanism versus just some lab space and some
Sure. Yeah.
highly decorated scientists who can help you
Yeah.
work on your science experiments.
I mean, the way I see it is so by the relationship with TriLink really gives us a lot of um, how do I want to say this? Well, it's powerful because you're using essentially their SOP to make the mRNA, and it's essentially the same SOP that a GMP mRNA would be made at, but it's not GMP. Um, so what that means is that if the researcher, again, I think I said this before, but the researcher can take it from the preclinical state to the clinical market without having to do too much new optimization. So I think that's an important piece because things can break between
Mhm.
preclinical studies and clinical studies, and you don't want that to happen. But I think from sort of the support and business structure is it's really this reiterative approach where if you can give an investigator an mRNA at cost, essentially for materials, and then they're testing it and they see whatever it is that they want to see, they might come back to us and then say, hey, we need a little bit more. We need we're getting too much, off-target effects, or the immune reactions are too high, toxins too high, something. So we can, try and play with that to get to a point where they're happy with the outcomes that they're getting, that then might allow them to move on to either new co-startup or licensing it to a pre-existing biotech. And with a product essentially that has been very well vetted in the academic clinical setting, hospital setting here at
Mhm.
Hopkins. So I think that provides a lot of value because you don't often see that and certainly, I mean, again, this goes back to this valley of death issue. There's a lot of great ideas that start in laboratories like mine that just wither on the vine, either because they can't leap that valley, or when they do traverse that valley, they die of starvation because there's just not enough, energy to keep them going, um, to get it into the market space. So I think we can help provide some of that by
Hmm.
offering, input and looking at their data, helping to evaluate, and then really seeing what more levers can we pull to get them to the place that they really need to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because if you were to have a company make an mRNA for you, they might charge you a lot of money to get milligrams of one type of mRNA molecule. What we hope to do is be able to charge less because we'd be charging them at cost plus labor. And then we could give them a panel. So instead of getting one type of mRNA molecule, they can get 10, right? And they would all vary in different ways that we think might be beneficial to its expression or stability. And then they can see which one is the best in their assays. So it's a much more powerful approach when they're
Mhm.
working with us,
Orthogonal
And then
and
approach
more
to
eventually
affordable.
what,
business, right?
yeah, and what we really hope to do is we having all this under sort of one clearinghouse is we learn from each of these programs that we assist. So if we have investigators that are doing neoantigen therapy in the pancreas, we take that information back with us and we learn something about what worked there and what didn't work. And then the next person who comes up and wants to, start a program somewhere else, we learn from that. And over time, we're gaining expertise about when, when do you need to have ultra pure RNA? When do you tolerate a little bit less purity? When, would it be great to have this particular type of RNA modification or this, particular UTR or whatever it might be, or LNP formulation, by gaining that information, keeping it in our records, and then advising, we're educating ourselves, we're educating our own community to help. And so it's creating value to the center itself.
What are the what's the resource picture look like? You talk about the expertise and the research. Are you relying on Johns Hopkins personnel to contribute to assisting with this research and playing a role here, or does the center have its own staff? Like, what do those resources look like?
So in terms of like the financial aspects, this was a joint venture between Hopkins and the Whiting School of Engineering at Johns Hopkins. Between TriLink and the Whiting School of Engineering at Johns Hopkins. So TriLink and Johns Hopkins put in equal amounts of money to launch the center, and it's a 5-year agreement currently. So the employees of the center are employed by Johns Hopkins through that money, but it's as with any academic center, it's never a money-making business. It's basically break even. That's it. And so we charge for our services enough to keep, everything balanced. But we are an academic unit, so we also can apply for grants and take donations. If you want to send us a check, go ahead.
Just gonna slide that little
slide that
info in there.
Send it directly to my home, but no, it's a joke.
So Matt and I are supposed to show up at 8 a.m. tomorrow and also pay to play.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's right. I'll send you my Venmo account.
I'm on it.
But we anticipate that we will have multiple. Like any other academic center, we're going to be applying for grants. We'll be applying for grants with other investigators. And eventually there'll be production of IP that will come back to the center. And all of that sort of, hopefully in time becomes self-reinforcing and sustains the operations.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another question I had for you was what claim the center and Johns Hopkins might stake in the potential value of some of these assets that you're helping to create. What does that business model look like, or is it sort of TBD?
I think they're standard. That's all stuff that's controlled by our tech transfer office at Johns Hopkins, which at Hopkins is called the Johns Hopkins Tech Venture, so JHTV. And with anything that comes out of Johns Hopkins that has, that's Hopkins IP, they have the rights over that. And when a new co is started, then there are, the license has to be negotiated with Johns Hopkins. It's a very standard operational procedure for any university and how they spin out companies. And that's really it, is that if we develop things at Johns Hopkins, then if the investigator wants to patent that, then they're welcome to do that. Then it's all done through the terms of Johns Hopkins University.
What about the TriLink influence there? Are there any strings attached to TriLink for these investigators who are coming in and have the potential to take something into a manufacturable state?
I mean, TriLinks, they're very generous in this regard. I mean, they would like the right to look at it, but that's essentially it, meaning that they have the right to look at it and potentially offer licensing terms, but our investigators can say no, and so it's very generous.
Yeah, they're very supportive.
Yeah.
An important point for any would-be players who are like, what would I be tying myself down to? Yeah.
Well, I think from TriLink's perspective, what they really are hoping for is because the investigators are entering in early in their development, and we're using their SOP, so it's the clean cap and the clean script protocol, that they're putting more shots on goal to get molecules into their GMP. We don't really want to start making GMP mRNA at Hopkins. It's a whole different, ball game.
Different ball game, yeah.
Yeah, and since we are using their protocols, we would be sending business to them. And so that's
Yes.
what they get out of it more than anything. So a lot of the de-risking is done. What they probably see is that most of the de-risking is done with us through the academic center, and then they get the good stuff
Mhm.
that then they can make GMP.
Yeah.
But in terms of IP, it's there's no tether.
So
Yeah.
go ahead, Michelle.
I was just
You're
going to
gonna
say,
add something.
yeah, TriLink is extremely supportive of this endeavor. And in fact, they had a small team here last week walking us through their SOPs. So, they're there, they answer many questions, and they're offering their help all the time. So, yes, the idea is because of this relationship, the transition to a larger scale production should be seamless.